Previously on the Doctor Who Book Club podcast.
Hello and welcome to this very special edition of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Sean.
And this is Eric, and Sean was right when he said it's a very special episode, if you will, in quotation marks, because we're not reviewing one of the Doctor Who novels. We instead have on two real live authors of a Doctor Who companion book, Who is the Doctor?, which is an episode guide to the new series, written by our friends Graeme Burk and Robert Smith. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello.
Yay, we have guests.
And now our story continues.
Welcome, everyone, to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London.
Graeme in Toronto.
Robert in Ottawa.
Welcome, everyone.
Hello, yes.
Hi, yeah, I guess this is customary for us to say hello at this point. Yes.
What's a podcast?
He literally means that, by the way. I have to remind him every time.
Yeah.
Robert, I saw you somewhat recently at a console room a few months back. We were on a couple different panels together. I was the guy who had the sack of nonfiction books and kept pulling out different...
Oh, that was an amazing collection. So it was really spectacular.
And then, Graeme, I think you've actually recorded a Reality Bomb there a few years back, too.
Oh, God, we've recorded, I think, our second live show ever there. It was a pretty disastrous event, but we survived it.
We drove for like 30 hours to get there. It was insane.
And now it's in January, so it's even more of a challenging drive. So
yes, now we don't drive there.
And we're here discussing, you've got a new book coming out called Who is the Doctor 2, the unofficial guide to Doctor Who the Modern series, a follow-up to Who is the Doctor 1, I'd imagine, right?
Just surprisingly, yes. Well, just Who is the Doctor? We had no idea that we were going to make a second book at the time. So.
Oh, I had dreams.
I had dreams too, but it was kind of like, oh my God! I mean, that's going to be the far future of 20 something and something, and so I didn't quite envisage that we actually get here.
Yeah, well, they kept slowing down the rate of episodes too, so that seemed to.
Yeah, and delaying when they'd start episodes, and oh God, it was a bit of a nightmare.
Trend that's continuing. I think we've got a good year or so until it comes back again now.
Well, the book was originally supposed to. We signed the contract so the book would come out in I think 2017, and then I think just shortly after we signed the contract, or around the same time, there came the notice that there would be no Doctor Who in 2016. So that meant we were kind of delayed, and then we were then we were going to go try and get it out for, I think, early 2018 or something like that. And then they announced the new Doctor, and we thought, well, we can't have Peter Capaldi as the main Doctor on the front cover with the first woman Doctor. That's not a good optic at all. So then we delayed that again, and just as we were getting it down across the finish line for publication, we found out that a new season would be out, finish about 3 weeks before publication. So there you go.
Mm.
Yeah, curse them for making more Doctor Who.
I know. It's a curse, I tell you. It's a curse.
At least we're not writing Who is Red Dwarf. I mean, that would be...
It's a good problem to have, though. More Doctor Who is always good. So this book covers 5 series in total, and then the year of specials, right? So it covers starting at the beginning of, is it Series 7 through
Series 7,
11?
yes. It starts with The Doctor, the Widow, the Wardrobe, and it goes up to Resolution. We're just missing Season 12, because...
It's only just finished, yes.
How similar was it to your previous collaborations? Because you also have another book out, Who's 50, right? That came out in between these 2 volumes?
Another 2 books actually came out between those volumes. Who's 50, the 50 Doctor Who Stories to Watch Before You Die, and which came out in 2013. And The Doctors Are In, which was a guide to the doctors themselves, which came out in, what was it, Robert, 2015?
Yeah, I think that's right.
So Robert and I had done two books between that time. The process isn't vastly different because we kept to pretty much the same categories and the same sort of format and the same approach. I think what changed was the slow progress of actually writing it because of all the different delays to Doctor Who, and so as a result, it was very stoppy and starty. Like a whole year that took place between my writing, my starting the entry for I don't think I ever told you this, Robert, between my starting the entry for the Bells of St. John and my finishing the entry for the Bells of St. John, I think 11 months transpired because in the middle of that, because we had the gap, I went on and wrote the Sidney Newman book, Head of Drama. So I did that, and Robert did, I don't know, 16 outside in volumes. So
they take up some time, yeah.
So I think as a result, it took a while before, I actually remember when it was, I really started feeling kind of back in the groove, really. And I think it was towards the end of Capaldi's first season. I think I was starting to get back into actually doing it as a regular routine. And Robert and I were getting back into sort of the same rhythm, and that was a lot of fun again. But yeah, it had more stops and starts this time.
It's pretty much the same. I think, our travel schedules get in the way sometimes too. And, we reach in different places a lot. I actually wrote the bulk of the book in Cameroon because I was teaching there for, a better part of last year. And so, we're just kind of like, all right, I'll send out something. And then you wait for the time zones to sort of sync up and waiting for Graeme to wake up. And it's like, okay, we have an exchange. I'm going to bed. In that sense, but we've often done that because we're often two big travelers and so just kind of, writing stuff around the world as we do.
On the location point, so I notice at the end of the book, you rattle off a list of various different countries that you ended up writing the book in. I was just wondering, what was the most interesting place that you were writing in?
Probably Kazakhstan for me. I mean, I'm like, what the hell am I doing in Kazakhstan? And actually, I think we were right up against the deadline too. I was like, I got to get this book done. I'm in a hotel room. It's like, I don't care what's outside. I got to write this thing.
I mean, for me, I didn't actually contribute to a lot of those far off places this time. The book I really did that with, though, was The Doctors Are In, and in that book, I think the strangest place I wrote something was in Haiti. And it was the same experience as Robert. It was just kind of this weird disconnect. What's happening in real life around you? And I'm going to go write about this little fictional television show now for a couple of hours before I get busy in the morning. Yeah, so it was a very strange disconnect.
I mean, there was one magnificent time when Graeme and I just happened to both be in Chicago at a convention, and we had to write the book. So we sat down side by side and we're like, ignore the convention, write the book, and kind of ignore each other, even though we're in the same hotel room.
Pretty much, yeah.
When it came to writing for the individual stories, how did you decide who was going to be doing the first entry and who's going to be doing the second?
We basically just give a list of all the stories, and then I'll pick the ones that I want, and Robert will pick the ones that we want, and the ones we have a conflict on, we do some swapping and trading, and then the orphaned ones we end up picking. There wasn't huge amounts of conflict this one. The biggest one actually was The Girl Who Died, because that was probably my favorite story of the season, and Robert was kind of, I think, so about it on a broadcast, and then he watched it with his girlfriend, and all of a sudden it was like the greatest story ever, and I have to do this story. And I was like, but I love this story, and I don't have any good stories this season otherwise. And so anyways, he got it, and I think I got it in exchange for a first round draft pick or something. Can't remember what it was, but there was there was various horse trading involved.
Graeme, you mentioned that it took you maybe the better part of a year to do the entry for Bells of St. John, but it seems like most of them are written fairly contemporaneously with the episode airing. Like, for example, in the Dinosaurs on the Spaceship entry, there isn't, foreshadowing to the Chibnall era, so to speak, or David Bradley's roles in Adventure in Space and Time or Twice Upon a Time. And it's really great to kind of see that drumbeat throughout where you're, I think, both asking, when are we going to start getting more women writers on the show?
Well, let's talk about, first of all, the contemporaneous part. That's the joy of editing. As we built this thing, we could do that. And at the time, I think Chibnall had been announced, so I was able to slide that in. But then as we got closer to it, we were able to sort of change it up and stuff. But yeah, the lack of women writers was kind of a giant bugbear that became ever more evident. I think it was very evident even from the moment. I think that my first comment on it was, well, when we did Asylum of the Daleks. So that's the second entry in the book.
We were writing this book in like 2015 or
2016, I think. Yeah, my first entry, I think we did our first entry in like mid 2016 or something like that. But yeah,
I mean, it's long been a bugbear of ours. I mean, we were having this complaint, the around 50th anniversary when we were at Comic Cons and stuff like that, and
yeah.
I think the book does a great job of not shying away from some of those social issues and tackling and addressing them in the context of different reviews. For example, the topic of gun violence gets discussed rather thoroughly in the entry for A Town Called Mercy, and then A Woman's Right to Choose in the Kill the Moon episode. I thought it was great that it was just refreshing to see those topics addressed without dancing around them in some respect.
Yeah, I mean, this for me is what it's all about, actually. It's like, I mean, I love Doctor Who. I love it with a passion, right? And, so does Graeme. Like, we really... I think we come with such a joy for Doctor Who, but of course we're fans, so we're not blind to criticisms. But for me personally, actually, one of the things I really love about this, non-fiction writing, which I do a lot of, is being able to use the source material as a springboard to talk about the issues that come up. And so, I love that Doctor Who raises stuff, and whichever way it raises it, okay, let's talk about that. And, I think one of the things is we should be having discussions about stuff, not necessarily arguments and fights, but discussions. And these are topics worth exploring, and there's sometimes a lot of stuff there to get into. So I love that. I love all that stuff so much. And, Graeme and I come from very different backgrounds and have different views on things too, so we can sometimes get into it. But at the end of the day, I think the engine that powers it is the fact that we just love Doctor Who fundamentally, and so then it's not this sort of hate on for stuff. It's a joy of it and discussion of it, and then also let's take it to the next level and talk about the other things that come up.
Yeah, I mean, our watchword has always been enthusiasm, and we want to be enthusiastic about Doctor Who. And so the great thing about being enthusiastic is that you can actually look at Doctor Who from all kinds of different lenses and actually kind of engage with the topic in very different ways. I mean, Robert's reviews of Kill the Moon and Town Called Mercy that you mentioned are definite ways into that. I think my review of World Enough in Time and The Doctor Falls, I think, also tries to talk about how Doctor Who is failing to handle certain issues decently. So, yeah, so especially in that particular case, having a companion of color. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting jumping off points, which is the great fun of it.
Yeah, I think the biggest eye-opening one for me was probably the Journey to the Center of the TARDIS review, which opened my eyes, and it's like, oh, this is really the equivalent to Star Trek The Next Generation's Code of Honor in some ways.
Yeah. It's a very problematic story, yes.
It really is. I call it the come to Jesus moment for Doctor Who, because a year later they've got Danny Pink in as a character. Another 2 years they've got Bill. The show starts actually trying to do some steps. Let's not say they've accomplished amazing things, but nonetheless they've made steps. At that point, the only characters of color that had really appeared in any substantive way in like several years was that story, and they're all terrible. Oh my God. So yeah, I mean, and they had a real bad habit of that. Like Doctor Who was very, very white. It was hashtag Doctor Who so white. And at the same time, characters of colors that were showing up were Mel's, Colonel Runaway. Like really, guys?
Yeah.
Journey to the Center of the TARDIS is the utter nadir of that. So yeah, I just basically said to Robert when I wrote it, just let me add it. So yeah.
But one thing as a viewer I'd always found so frustrating was that Star Trek had in the 90s had a British Asian character, and we had not had that as a companion. We had not had that as any kind of not anybody along those lines as even like a regular outside of the Sarah Jane Adventures. So I am it's just my thing. I'm just very glad that in the 13th Doctor era that has been corrected. Yes.
I mean, it's fascinating to me that the Sarah Jane Adventures is so much more progressive in many ways than the main show. It had people of color as the leads. I mean, it had so much more thinking about how to make representation matter in so many ways, and you kind of go, why is it taking till 2019, 2018, 2020 for it to catch up with what Sarah Jane was doing in 2009?
Yeah.
So last time, Graeme, you indicated that Blink was the hardest entry to write from a review perspective. And just curious for both of you, what was the hardest or most challenging episode entry to write about this time around?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I don't remember it.
Maybe Sleep No More for me. That's the one I just kind of was like, yep, I got nothing on this one.
Yeah, I think he just gave a one. I think that's one where you just gave a one-liner.
I try not to do the one-liners, and that one I was like, nah, I'm out. Yeah, I mean the hardest technical one for me was Kill the Moon. Not because it was a difficult episode to review. There was lots to say about it, but saying it right was really challenging. And actually, that's one where we went a lot further than we normally go. Usually, we sort of we'll go. I'll send Graeme my stuff, and he'll send an edit back, and we'll do a little polish or something. And at this point, we're pretty streamlined on the process. But Kill the Moon, we had many serious kind of extra drafts and emails about getting it right and making sure the optics were good and all sorts of things. And I'm very glad about that, because it's something where I felt very strongly, and it's a dicey topic, but I was like, let's dive right in and let's talk about this. And so yeah, that for me was a challenge, but that was a good challenge to have.
Yeah.
Was the 50th like that at all?
Yeah. Well, the 50th wasn't a huge challenge in that respect. The 50th would be probably the one I found the hardest. I wrote the guide entry for that, and I deliberately made it the last entry I did for the book because I knew it was going to be a giant bear. Because the ones that are the massive continuity fests that are extra length always are. Like the hardest episode, the most difficult one on a technical level was in the last book, and was The End of Time parts 1 and 2, because it was just tons of continuity references, all kinds of stuff happening. You have to track everything, and there's all kinds of details you want to pack in, and then you have to figure out what do you want to say about it. And so yeah, the Day of the Doctor was probably that for me from a technical standpoint. I do remember the Zygon Inversion one taking a bit more foreground than usual. I can't remember. I think it was just trying to figure out what it was I wanted to say about it, because it was just always about the speech. And I was like, well, this is kind of a very so-so story, but it's got this massive speech. And then I realized, well, actually the speech is the thing. And so we just capitalized the speech, and then then we just talk about the joys of the speech in the review. So it worked out quite well.
Some of your reviews have kind of like very different formats, particularly thinking of Heaven Sent and also Robin of Sherwood. So did the individual writers decide upon the formats, or was it something you agreed amongst yourselves? Or?
Oh yeah, no. Well, Robert's going to Robert is basically what it boils down to. So Robert does those in the main. I always joke when we do Outside In that Outside In is full of all these super creative essays, and I just do a straight down the middle Tom Brokaw kind of analysis of everything, and we kind of have that kind of split on our books. I mean, But then every so often I will say, hey, I want to do something funny. But for the most part, yeah, that's purely Robert. So
yeah, I mean, this is what I love doing. I mean, I love mixing up the format, and I love sometimes you just need to show not tell. And if you want to make fun of something, sometimes just doing it is actually way more funny than just talking about it. And sometimes you just play with it and have fun. And I've definitely had feedback from readers who say yeah, no matter how great your thing is, anything you're reading and you just get a bit fatigued and you're like, yep, here we go, same old episode guide. And with your stuff, you turn the page and it's like, whoa, I don't know what's coming next. And I feel like that's, to me, the joy of Doctor Who. I mean, Graeme and I once interviewed Stephen Moffat, and he said, that the genius of Doctor Who is you don't know what type of show it is each week. So the TARDIS lands and you don't know, are you in a Western? Are you in a space opera? Are you in some domestic drama? That's the genius of Doctor Who. It just keeps it fresh. And so I suspect that's probably my DNA for that reason, because I've inherited it from just watching Doctor Who for many, many, many years.
Yeah. And your Heaven Sent review actually inspired me to rewatch it.
Oh, fantastic.
So, yes, yeah.
Chris has an outlier opinion about Heaven Sent, I think.
That's great, because, I mean, we are not didactic about these things. I mean, I think one of the brilliant things about the format, and I take no credit for it because it was all Graham's idea, was having the two reviews and they can be totally different. So, I think we're not presenting this as like, here are the immutable facts from experts. We're like, no, one of us says one thing and often the other person says something totally different. And I think it frees people up to go, okay, yeah, I'll have my own opinion. And, we're not telling you what to think. We're telling you, here's some perspectives and you can come to your own conclusions. And I really like that because I think that, as Doctor Who fans, we all have many opinions. And so, there's lots of different takes on things. And I love that we can just have that in our own discussions here.
Yeah, no, I think it must be healthy in the writing of it. Because, I remember reading the discontinuity guide. And I don't think it's my memory playing tricks with me, but I seem to remember there was, at the start of it, in the foreword of the book, they said that they hoped the book was really good because it damaged their friendships. And because they had that, this is the official opinion. Whereas, you both of you do differ on episodes. There's a real truth and authenticity.
Robert and I are still recovering from the fact that my discovery that he didn't like Sarah Jane coming back in School Reunion, and frankly, that's damaged our friendship for going on 13 years. And so we wrote this book out of the damage that was and the trauma that was caused by that moment. So yeah.
Well, one day we'll have a school reunion, Graeme.
Yes, indeed. You are getting old enough to actually use dad jokes in it.
I've been using dad jokes since I was 13 years old, so
One of the things that this book does too is you review a number of the different mini-sodes and special episodes. I think there are 3 of them that you call out as their own entries, like Night of the Doctor and the Doctor's Meditation, and then some of the other ones that you don't formally review, like Pond Life and The Last Day, you still mention and discuss in the text. How did you decide in terms of which ones to give full entries to versus...
It was pretty much the rule that we had when we did the first book, which was that if it appeared on BBC One in some form, either its red button service or it was in an actual... But it had to be broadcast on BBC One in some way. It would go in. So that basically meant that we didn't have to do Good as Gold. We didn't have to do Pond Life. The fact is that the entire Matt Smith era is littered with 2-minute 2-minute YouTube videos that, and I think Robert was kind of keen on getting him in. I was like, no. We're going to stick with what's on television and what can be found on video easily. The only, I think, exceptions we made was I think the Doctor's Meditation, which I think is because it's on the actual Blu-ray set, the DVD set. Night of the Doctor is also on, but I think it was just felt like, well, it was a cinema extra, and I think it might have had a BBC One airing, maybe. But yeah, I think that was the one that was kind of the exception was made. I know that Night of the Doctor is on the Red Button service, and Friend from the Future was on Match of the Day. So we had. So yeah, that was basically it. But yeah, we came up with that rule back in the day to keep us from having to, put up TARDISodes and all the Meanwhile in the TARDIS sequences from the season 5 DVD and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think also I'd kind of already done that when I did Outside In 2. I grappled with this problem and said, like, what do we do? And eventually I said, in that case, I'm just going for it. And I did an entry on absolutely everything. And so that, swelled the number of stories we're talking about. And when Graeme kind of talked me off the edge, I was like, all right, fine. Yes, you're right. There would be way too many entries. And as it is, the book ran a bit long anyway, so we had to do some cutting. So we might have had to cut those anyway if we tried to put them in. So it worked out for the best.
And for me, those things are short, but there's often not much to say about them. Robert always has all things to rhapsodize about these stories, but I don't. Like the entries for the entry for the Doctor's Meditation, I'm like going, you're just doing it just because you're enjoying the actual thing you're writing, not because you have that much to say about the Doctor's Meditation. Like I just like
like my horoscope of
like Pond Life. Yeah, I could probably say something about, but the others, Good as Gold. No, not really. No.
There's so much to talk about Einstein coming into the TARDIS. Come on.
And that's almost a multi-Doctor story, too, in that you have 2 different interactions with the Olympic torch, one from the 10th Doctor's perspective and one from the 11th.
This fanfic writes itself. I mean, it's amazing.
and that's why it should stay as fanfic.
Yes. Fine.
One of the other nice things that continues over from the previous volume are the psychic paper entries that help kind of inform and remind both older and newer fans about some of what's gone before. And I particularly liked the discussion of the multi-doctor stories for the 50th, because as you were discussing, like, the two doctors and how it doesn't really tie into an anniversary, my mind immediately went to, wait, what about the 100th Target novel? And then I turned the page and there you go talking about it.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny because, the psychic papers, I'd say, in many ways, they're Graeme's baby. Like, this was, Graeme was really like, in the first volume, like, we need to have this and this. And I wrote a couple, but mainly they were Graeme. And this time around, I don't even remember why, but Graeme was basically like, here, you write most of them. And I was like, oh, all right, okay. So it was good for me to kind of flex that muscle, because it wasn't particularly my comfort zone as much. And so trying to find ways to talk about that was really good. Like, I like them a lot because I think Doctor Who is so eclectic and there's so much weird, different stuff going on all the time. Sometimes it's nice to just be like, okay, let's just sit down and put the River Song stories in order. Like, let's just talk about how this all works. And, you just need to do that sometimes because it's all there, but extracting it sometimes is complicated.
I think what happened was that Robert was so far ahead of me on the book when in writing it because of various delays, that I just gave him more psychic paper. I did the vast majority of the psychic papers in volume 1, and I think in Who's 50. But I think this time I was like, no, you can do more of them, sure. I do remember giving you the multi-doctor one because I was originally scheduled for that, and I gave you that one. I said, yeah, my first sentence I was going to say, it's always been a question the Doctor Who production office got. Why can't we have all the Doctor Who's together in one place? And in 1972 they decided to do it, and that was I said, Robert, there's the opening sentence. Go.
Graeme really taught me some great things about writing, and one of the best things he taught me was like figure out where you start, and that I've really taken to heart, and I have passed on to so many people. It's like once you know where this starts, it kind of writes itself from then on, right? And so sometimes you spend a lot of effort figuring out where do you actually start. And so when he gives me a start, I'm like, oh, thank you, we're good to go.
On the psychic papers, I was particularly taken with your entry about the various different title sequences. There was a fair bit of information there, sort of like some of it I'd known, some of it I'd forgotten. Yeah, interested in how, like, in fact, across the book as a whole, I mean, there's quite a few interesting little tidbits, sort of particularly about the production of season 11, of like Tosin Cole experiencing heat stroke and stuff like that. That's maybe some of that is kind of like well known. I hadn't heard it before, but I was just wondering how you've got some of them facts.
Well, it's all Graeme. It's all Graeme.
Well, thank you for liking the Doctor Who title sequence one. That's probably my favorite thing I wrote in the book, actually. And I remember where I was when I wrote it. I was at a Starbucks on Yonge Street in Toronto, at Yonge and Eglinton. I was waiting to meet my parents to go show my dad Apollo 11 for the documentary. We were going to the cinema to go watch it for his birthday. So I arrived there about 2.5 hours early. So I got out my notebook and I started writing the entry for the Doctor Who title sequence, and most of it came out of my head. The hard part was I had to figure out what HowlRound was, because I've used HowlRound all my life in conversations, and I didn't quite understand it. And so until I sort of got on my phone and started doing the research, and I said, oh, okay, I get it. It's like feedback on a mic, only it's with a camera. Got it. Okay. So that was the fun. The other stuff, with Series 11, I was literally just combing everything I could find to try and get facts, because honestly, there wasn't any behind the scenes detail, as we all know. With other seasons, I go, oh, well, I'll go read Doctor Who magazine for that year, and nope, nothing at all. I'm sure there'll be an interview with a writer at no, not at all.
And no confidentials.
And very little behind the scenes stuff. So so as a result, I read the news report about Tosin Cole and heat exhaustion. I was like, oh, that's going in the book, because I've got nothing else for the Ghost Monument otherwise.
There were lots of little fun facts like that. Like, I didn't realize that for Asylum of the Daleks that the special weapons Dalek was the original prop, or that RTD had lent the production the use of the Dalek that normally is in his foyer.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forget where I got those details from, and they were in something. I mean, they were either in a news report, or they were likely in Doctor Who magazine, I imagine. or I think the Russell T Davies one. I think I'd heard Russell say it in an interview somewhere. So
yeah, I think I'd heard that too.
Yeah. But the thing is that I live and breathe Doctor Who, and I read tons about Doctor Who. So eventually, and I seem to be only able to retain materials about Doctor Who in my mind now. So quite amazing, what you kind of store up over 30 years of fandom.
Thinking back a little bit to that title sequence, Psychic Papers. So you talk about all the various different like social gatherings that people discuss Doctor Who at, and you mentioned axe throwing nights.
That's Robert.
Okay, all right. I was thinking there must be a story behind this. So.
I wrote the entry and I wrote the opening, and I did include axe throwing but again, as Robert says, it's where you start the thing, and the starting of that psychic paper was, over the years we've been at many social gatherings, and anytime Doctor Who's come up, many people have told us that title sequence scared me witless.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I decided to list a bunch, and I thought, well, I need to come up with a couple that are appropriate for Robert. I need to come up with a couple that are appropriate for Robert and appropriate for an old age audience. So I came up with axe throwing, which Robert has legitimately done.
I have actually done, yes.
Yeah, fair enough.
One question I had, and this is maybe something that I might slight point of contention or disagree with, was your interpretation, and I think both of you had this view in Rings of Akatan about whether or not the Doctor destroys the sun.
That's Robert.
That's all me.
That's all Robert.
It's all.
And I think this is like a misconception that goes throughout fandom, but when you rewatch that episode and look at like the establishing opening shot, I think Akatan is supposed to be the planet because it's lit from off-screen by the left by the sun. They used an effect of what essentially looks like the surface of the sun when the planet ignites with the creature on it, but I think they mentioned that the population is living in the rings or on other planets in the system. So I didn't take that to mean that the entire solar system was destroyed at the end by the Doctor, but just that the planet had been destroyed. And I don't know if that interpretation is widely accepted or not, but yeah, I would encourage you to maybe go back and rewatch that one just to...
Well, it's funny because one of our beta readers, he raised not the same point as you, but it's a similar one. He's like, well, I'm just not totally sure. And I was basically like, yeah, I looked at it again and I was like, possibly, I think it is a bit more open to contention, perhaps. But I was like, the joke is too funny to let it go. So
yeah.
This one in.
Very, very true. Yeah. Not the first time the Doctor's been accused of committing genocide.
Yeah,
and it's a second opinion on it. I mean, obviously, you want to pay attention to my glowing words about the Rings of Akatan. So there you go. I think the joy of this book is that it gives you something to argue with about Doctor Who, and there's nothing ever bad about that. So. Mm-hmm. So I say, have at it, sir. If
Did you have a particular entry that came to mind as being the most contentious between the two of you, or where your opinions differed the most, perhaps?
I'm trying to think. It seems just so normative that our opinions differ.
Opinions differ a lot, yes.
There's one in particular, the entry for Deep Breath, where I had enjoyed the story at the time, but you both gave it quite a negative response. But in reading through your explanations, all the points you raised made total sense. And now I'm left thinking like, well, maybe I didn't like that one quite as much as I thought I did.
So we've ruined your life, and I'm sorry about that.
Just slow down, take a deep breath.
Oh, Robert. Oh. No, there's nothing that was like super contentious. I think, as Robert said, the Kill the Moon entry was one that I was concerned about that we did in a sensitive way, and Robert, of course, did that masterfully. So I think, but there was a couple of emails back and forth to us, sort of saying, okay. If you're going to go there, then what about this and what about this and what about this? And there has to be a way for this. And so that wasn't so much contentious. That wasn't like, oh, I can't believe you're being like that.
I was genuinely shocked that you didn't love The Magician's Apprentice and The Witch's Familiar as much as I did. Like we played that up, but I was legitimately like, wait, what?
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's right. That's true. That's true.
I'm wondering if you'd be willing to reveal in this interview, because you make an allusion to it in the book, which of the two of you had the opportunity to, shall we say, view Series 8 a little bit earlier than, or at least the first 5 episodes?
That was totally me.
Okay.
That was all Graeme. I'm a total spoiler phobe. I knew that that leak had happened, but I'm like, not looking, not going to look.
I'm like, okay, let's go see it without with bad special effects and in black and white and with a watermark on it. Yeah, you bet. Let's do this.
Although in like Robot of Sherwood, it does help explain one of the late edits to the plot there.
Yeah, no, you can see that. You can also see them completely kind of change the ending on Into the Dalek, because they actually had Rusty beam back to the Dalek ship and blow it up, which doesn't happen now. So yeah, and because they're using temp tracks for temporary sound effect tracks, they use the actual Star Trek beam up sound effect for the Dalek coming on, which is very funny. Yeah.
One of the biggest surprises or revelations for me in reading the book was the headcanon or the tie-in you propose between the Auton attack in March of 2005 and lining that up with the day that Clara's mother dies.
Yeah, I forget where I'd read about that. I think I was just looking for trivia about the episode, and someone had either mentioned it to me or I read it online, and I just went, that doesn't make any sense. And I sort of did the math, and yeah, you can sort of see maybe that it could be that, but the way that Clara talks about her mother's death sure sounds like it's more of a lingering illness. So it does rather than a violent death. And so it doesn't make sense to me right now.
I mean, I'd never heard it before, but I thought it was brilliant. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. I mean, yeah. You're probably right that it probably wasn't intended, but it's one of those beautiful things that fans do, right? Is like make these connections and you just kind of blow your mind sometimes. You go like, oh, that would be so neat, because it's so subtle, and 99.9% of the audience isn't going to care, but the tiny 0.1% who do, it's just like, wow, that's awesome.
My favorite fan theory that made it into the book, that was actually left in the book, was and didn't get debunked, was a theory my friend Cameron came up with. Hi, Cameron Dixon. What actually happens at the end of Hellbent is that Me is actually in the very far future, because the Time Lord sent her there to go bring Clara back, and then to put Clara back into her timeline, and that there isn't going to be any happy jaunting in a 1950s diner with but actually Clara's going to die. I personally do not, in my headcanon, I do not believe that to be the case. I believe that there's many adventures in time and space in a 1950s diner, but it sure as hell intrigued the hell out of me when I heard Cameron tell it. So I said, I got to put that in the book, and I credit him in the book.
Yeah, it's a very interesting theory. It's one I hadn't heard before. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally thought it was nonsense. It was like, really? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I was wondering, have you started writing any entries for Series 12?
No.
I mean, I think we've talked about it a bit, and we have our own kind of ideas. I think if we were writing the next volume, we would be writing those pretty fast, and we have some regrets that we don't have Series 12 in this book. I mean, it just wasn't possible with the production schedule. On the other hand, it probably would mean the book would be 600 pages long, because there's so much to talk about in Series 12.
Yes.
Yeah. I in my head sort of started to write. Yes. There every so often I think to myself, oh, that would be the stand up and cheer moment, But yeah, for the most, no. I think the joy of Who is the Doctor is it is a lengthy stretch of. It's a book that has more than one season, and you can sort of journey through it. And I we could release it yearly, like David Howe did with the Back to the Vortex books back in the day. But why? But for me, you just then you lose, I think, the sort of joy of journeying with a show over multiple seasons.
Yeah, because I mean, the stories we cover, like they go from they start at one point and they end in a very, very different point. Like I think Graeme sort of made the judgment, you could not predict from the Matt Smith seasons where this show was going to go next, and like where it's going to end up, I guess, by the end of series 11. Like it's just a very different television show, and that's the great thing about Doctor Who. Like it regenerates in front of the camera and also behind. Like the show is constantly reinventing itself, which I think is what makes it so long-lived, really, because it can do this and it can keep surviving. And so I think that the book really kind of captures that arc of like how the history of Doctor Who bends as we go on.
Maybe would want to end on the same question that you both answered during your previous interview with the book club. If you could only rewatch one of these 5 seasons that you reviewed going forward, so seasons 7 through 11, and let's count the 50th as part of series 7 for those purposes, which would you return to and why? And just as a refresher, last time, Graeme, you said season 4, and Robert said season 1 with season 5 getting an honorable mention.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it'd be series 10, actually. I thought that the Bill Potts season was really, really well set up. It kind of goes a bit skew in the middle a bit, but I just thought that was just a really solid season. And also, it's pretty standalone because you kind of reset Doctor Who to zero when Bill comes and finds this eccentric professor in the university, and just kind of goes from there, and then it wraps up the story arc very nicely by the end. So for me, that's in some ways I'd say the most solid of the seasons. Even as it had some wibbly bits.
I would probably say series 9. Series 9 for much the same reasons Robert did. I think there's some fantastic stories in that season, and I think Heaven Sent is amazing. I think there's, and I think Capaldi sort of is. The one thing I regret not putting in the book is my theory of Capaldi, which is that there's hard, medium, and soft Capaldi. So you have hard Capaldi in Series 8 when he's really harsh and difficult and very unlikable when you rewatch it. Then you have soft Capaldi when he's just got very fluffy hair and is very charming and enthused and very Pertwee-esque in Series 10. And then you get Series 9, and that's medium Capaldi, and I think medium Capaldi is probably the best. He's got some of the spikiness, but he's not so completely clueless about social interaction, but he's also very charming. And so yeah, I love that season, and if I had to give an honorable mention, I'd give it to Series 7, not necessarily because of the stories in it except for Day of the Doctor, but I want to be able to rewatch Day of the Doctor again. So there you go.
Chris, how about you?
Oh, of those, I think possibly season 8, because it was such. It just felt like such a fresh take, and I think an honourable mention to season 10 as well. I adored the Bill Potts stuff, with the possible exception of the monks, but yeah.
And for me, I would probably say Series 7, and then honorable mention Series 9, but yeah, even Series 10 I really enjoyed too. Graeme, with your Capaldi theory there with medium, soft, and hard Capaldi, it reminds me too of the comments I think it was Colin Baker made in the More Than 30 Years in the TARDIS documentary about how he always wanted, his Doctor to have that kind of layer cake approach with like this 7-year arc, and it was cut short. And I see that same sort of progression with Capaldi's character over the course of the 3 series.
I'm not sure if it is a progression, to be honest. I think it's literally course correction. I think the character played poorly with audiences, and I think they course corrected, and then they course corrected again. And I also think Colin Baker was out of his mind that any fan television audience is going to stick around for the 7-year long game, and how you're like only Doctor Who fans believe that, because with Doctor Who, history is literally written by the losers. So especially where the Colin Baker era is concerned. Like we don't let the history be written by the Michael Grades of the world. No. We let the history get written by the Colin Bakers and the John Nathan Turners and the Ian Levines of the world. Like, I just don't get this. So yeah, there you go.
And can you remind us when the book is coming out?
Book is coming out on March 17th, although I suspect it will be in bookstores probably now. If you look, you can certainly get it from ecwpress.com, but you can also get it from all the various fine Amazons in the universe.
Yeah, and one of the nice things about ECW is if you buy the print copy, you can get the e-copy for free. So I think that's a great thing for fans who maybe want a nice book on their shelf, but also maybe just want to read it on their device. And so I really like that a lot.
Oh, that's great. I was going to ask if they were going to do that again, because I remember for your previous collaborations with them, that was an option too. If you show them proof of receipt, then they'll email you the PDF version, so that's great. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Robert and Graeme, for joining us and talking about Who is the Doctor 2. I got a review copy early, but I'm going to be going out and buying the physical version.
Oh, excellent.
As soon as
brilliant.
I can.
Yeah, fantastic.
Great.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic read, yeah.
Well, thanks for having us. As we said in the last version of the book club, I mean, I can't wait to be here next week for our discussion of the Crystal Bucephalus. So let's do this.
I have so many opinions on the Crystal Bucephalus.
Absolutely.
Oh, we've reviewed that one.
Oh, darn.
But we will be back later this month with our regular episode, a review of Heart of TARDIS by Dave Stone.
Oh, on your own.
Though, on that, Robert, are you going to be doing a bookworm too?
I'm absolutely doing a bookworm too. I'm writing it right now. Yes, the only delay is, of course, these things take a long time to read, as you guys know well. And so, yes, doing I think it's 76 books in the next one. It's oh my god. So we're about 25% through though. We are plunging.
Is the EDAs the next?
It's the EDAs, yes. Yes, that's right. So that's been an interesting read because they're quite different from the new adventures. Although we're finding some bright spots actually, which is quite surprising and lovingly awesome actually, because we were dreading it a little bit, but it's actually going nicely.
And while we wait for that, we will be reading Who is the Doctor 2, which is out now. So listeners, go out and get that and support Robert and Graeme, because it's a great read and it's a great continuation of both the previous volume they've done. So if you haven't picked that up yet, I recommend doing so. And then also just in the spirit of the discontinuity guide and all the other episode guides that have gone before, this really does feel like the definitive episode guide of the modern era. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Well, and until next month, this has been Matt in Minnesota,
Chris in South London,
Graeme in Toronto,
and Robert in Ottawa. Happy reading.
Thank you for listening to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. Special thanks to George C. Music for use of their song, Doctor Who Theme, Swing Jazz Version. You can follow us on Twitter at ANDWBC Podcast and like us on Facebook. You can support the show by leaving us a rating and review on iTunes. You can contact the show by emailing your thoughts to andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. And until next month, happy reading.
We said the last version of the writers of let me try that again. Please edit that. I forgot where I was. Sorry.
He does that a lot.
It happens.